Hey, this is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous. I'm sitting here in the room where I just finished week number 3 of our support group. And we had some heavy topics, actually. We kind of start low and raw and we work our way up to moving forward. But tonight was an interesting and a very good group, simply because the folks really opened up and they're beginning to bond and they're honest with each other and they're honest with themselves. We just had a really good discussion. So we talked about, we're still in the emotions, and we talked about anger, for one of the topics, and how anger really is just, it's an acceptable emotion, but underneath it is really a lot of pain. And I refer to a quote that I had with one of the guys in my group many years ago who said, I can tolerate pain. No wonder what was it he said? It's escaping me. So no wonder I'm angry, because then I don't have to deal with the pain. So underneath all of this anger is really some profound pain that needs to be excavated, to discovered, to explored, and to be curious about. Because as we are curious about our emotions, then we can identify them and begin to work on healing them. First, we have to identify them, simply have to. And then we talked about shame, which is always an interesting conversation. Shame is a liar, and shame is such a part of the divorce world. Many of us are just so stuck in our shame that we isolate and we withdraw. And so one of the slides that I shared today was this slide, which hopefully we can bring in. And it talks about how shame is felt in our body before we even realize it in our mind. And this is something that we've learned. We first start feeling shame between 15 to 18 months of our life. And it would be really interesting to know, when was it in your life that you first experienced shame? And many of us do. Well, all of us do, but some of us, it's quite profound in our childhood of when we first experience shame. But it's felt in our body, it's visceral, before we even realize in our head, oh, I'm feeling shame. And that was certainly identified tonight in our group. Shame causes us to withdraw and to pull back, to back away, to look away. If you have shame, you're very rarely having good eye contact with someone. And thirdly, it does often go back to our childhood where we learned it, and we have learned to hide it well, or to mask it, masquerade it. A shame increases and flourishes in secrecy and isolation. Hey, Stephanie and Mabel, wonderful to see you. So shame increases and flourishes in isolation. And that's what gets us stuck so many times, is when we are isolating and pulling back. When we are feeling shame is the time in which we need to ask for help. Now, the irony is, when we're feeling that shame, we don't feel like asking for help. And shame keeps us pulled away, it keeps us isolated, when we really need to connect with someone to deal with this shame. Such an important topic, and we spent a lot of time on it tonight. In fact, I played a little recording from Dr. Kurt Thompson when he talks about shame and how Christ took our shame on the cross and wants us to be free from it, wants us to identify it, wants us to release it, to let it go, to live free. And that's one of the most beautiful parts of the gospel, of what Christ did for us, is he said, I'm going to take this all on myself and I'm going to free you. And you don't have to feel shame anymore. So it was a great night, and I just wanted to share for a few extra minutes. And yeah, I love that, Stephanie. The shame I felt during my divorce was strong, and I no longer allow it to speak to me anymore. That is huge. And that is not something that comes easy, is it? It's something that requires a process of identifying and finding those shame triggers. And when am I withdrawing? When am I um, moving away from people instead of moving to people? And who are those people in your life who you can bare your soul with and speak your shame to so that you don't have to carry it alone? Shame is a liar. It wants to hurt us. It wants to steal from us. It wants to rob from us. The only way we can stop it from doing that is by identifying it, by being known, by seeking connection with someone, so we don't have to carry it all on our own. We were never meant to live isolated or alone. We're meant to live in community. Anyway, just a few thoughts of group tonight. And if you have not gone through a support group, highly recommend it. That really the dynamics, that's what I love about group. It's not my magic that makes it happen. It's really, I give space for the Holy Spirit to work. And I watch people, they were teaching each other tonight. It wasn't me. They were teaching each other. And it is such a beautiful dynamic and such a vital part to your healing. A lot of these folks, most folks in my group see a counselor as well, but there's something about that group dynamic. That's why I've been doing it for 17 years, watching what happens in these groups. Total strangers come together. They begin to bond, they begin to support each other, they begin to really care for each other. So don't deny yourself that experience of being part of a healthy group that allows you to work on your healing and fight the things such as shame. This is Kathy Beatty with Divorce Support Anonymous, walking with you every step of the way through the trauma and after the trauma of divorce. Have a good evening.